I never meant to confess. It was supposed to stay hidden beneath neon signs, lost in the chaos of Vegas and the haze of too many cocktails. But guilt is strange. It doesn't whisper. It roars when everything else falls silent. My name is Sarah, 32, a marketing executive. Married for 6 years to Ryan. People call him reliable, calm, gentle. Predictable in the way that once made me feel protected. But somewhere along the way, that comfort turned into something that felt like a cage. Vegas was supposed to be a break, a girl's trip, a breath of air away from routine. I told Ryan I needed time away. He kissed my forehead and said, "You deserve it." I still remember how his thumb brushed my cheek. Soft. Trusting. God, that look should have stopped me before I even boarded the plane. The first night in Vegas, I told myself I just wanted to feel alive again. The music, the lights, the endless freedom, like breathing for the first time in years. And then there were 2 men, total strangers, names forgotten by morning. It wasn't love. It wasn't passion. It was recklessness, mixed with self-pity. I kept telling myself it was nothing, just a wild night. But when I looked in the hotel mirror afterward, mascara smeared, I barely recognized the woman staring back. The flight home was silent. My friends slept while I watched the clouds passing like torn pieces of my conscience. Ryan met me at the airport, holding a coffee made exactly how I liked it. Extra cream, no sugar. His smile made my chest tighten. I told myself again, he doesn't need to know. Just move forward. Be better. But guilt doesn't leave. It festers. It came back in tiny moments, when he held my hand, when he cooked dinner, when he whispered, "I love you," and I paused before saying it back. I kept pretending, hoping it would fade. Instead, it grew heavier. 3 weeks later, Ryan came home early from work. I was on the couch, staring at the TV without seeing it when he asked, "Are you okay?" The way he said it wasn't casual. It was cautious, like he already felt something was wrong. My chest tightened. "Yeah, I lied," voice cracking. He sat beside me, studying my face. "You've been distant," he said gently. "If something's wrong, tell me." That was the moment. I could have swallowed the guilt and smiled. But something broke. I told him everything, every stupid, shameful detail. The club, the drinks, the strangers. When I finished, the silence was heavier than any scream could have been. Ryan didn't interrupt. He didn't curse. He just stared ahead, his face unreadable. Not calm, just empty. When he finally spoke, all he said was, "Thank you for telling me." It hurt more than anger ever could. He stood up, walked to the window, and stared out for what felt like hours. My heart pounded so hard I could hardly breathe. When he turned around, his eyes weren't crying, but they looked hollow, like he stepped out of his own body just to survive the moment. "Why?" he asked quietly. "Was it something I did wrong?" I shook my head, tears falling. "No, it wasn't you. He cut me off, voice steady. "It was you." And with that, something inside me split open. He didn't yell, didn't slam anything. He just went to the bedroom, grabbed his jacket and keys, and paused at the doorway. I wanted to run to him, beg him, undo everything, but my body refused to move. He looked at me one last time. His voice was low, calm, and terrifying. "You didn't just lose me tonight, Sarah. You lost the version of me that ever trusted you." Then he walked out. The sound of the door closing felt like the end of a story I never realized I was writing. The house went still. Too still. I sat there staring at the empty doorway, waiting for him to walk back in, but he never did. The hum of the refrigerator and the soft ticking of the clock were the only sounds filling the space he used to occupy. That night, I didn't sleep. His words kept replaying in my head. "You lost the version of me that ever looked at you with trust." They echoed like a heartbeat, a constant reminder of the damage I caused. Every room in the house felt haunted by him, his coffee mug on the counter, his jacket still hanging on the chair, the faint trace of his cologne in the hallway. In the morning I called. Straight to voicemail. I texted him. Nothing. By noon, I drove to his office, hoping he'd want to talk. But he wasn't there. His assistant said he took a few days off. That's when reality hit me. He wasn't just cooling down. He disappeared. Days blurred into weeks. I kept waiting for the door to open, for him to come back and say he needed time. I tried to be patient. Then one Friday evening, he finally returned. I was sitting on the porch steps, lost in my thoughts, when his car pulled in. My heart jumped, stupidly hopeful. He looked different. Same clothes, same calm posture, but something in his expression had shifted. He wasn't angry. He wasn't broken. He was done. I came to get the rest of my things, he said, voice flat, almost polite. I nodded, throat tight. Ryan, please.
Can we talk?
Just once. He sighed, eyes meeting mine briefly before sliding away. Talking won't fix what's already broken. I made a mistake, I whispered quickly. I was stupid, lost. I didn't even, he stopped me with a slight shake of his head. You didn't make a mistake, Sarah. You made a choice. And that's the difference. He walked past me into the house. I followed like a shadow. He moved room to room, picking up his belongings, books, shirts, his guitar. Watching him pack felt unbearable, but I couldn't turn away. Every zip of a bag felt like another nail sealing the coffin of our marriage. When he finished, he faced me one last time. You know, he said quietly, I used to wonder what kind of person could cheat and still look their partner in the eyes. Now I don't wonder anymore. Tears burned my eyes, but I forced myself to speak. I loved you, Ryan. I still do. He nodded once. Maybe you did. But love without respect is just chaos. And you taught me that. There was no anger in his voice, just truth. And that truth cut deeper than any scream ever could. After he left, the house didn't feel like home. It felt like a museum of moments I destroyed. Trip photos, anniversary cards, tiny reminders of a love that once felt unbreakable. I thought about deleting his number, but I couldn't. I kept reading our old messages, searching for the version of myself who hadn't ruined everything yet. Months passed. I went to therapy, tried to understand why I made the choices I made. Every session peeled back layers, loneliness, denial, resentment, the fantasy of freedom. But underneath all of it was something simple. I wanted to feel seen, and I chased that feeling in the worst possible way. One day, I saw him at a cafe downtown. He looked good, peaceful, lighter. He gave me a polite smile, the same calm expression I used to love. For a moment, I thought maybe we could talk, maybe rebuild something. But when I said his name, he just nodded and said, "Take care, Sarah," before walking past. That was when I learned that forgiveness doesn't always mean coming back. Sometimes it's just the absence of bitterness. I still wear my wedding ring, not because I think he'll return, but because it reminds me of the woman I promised to be. The woman who failed. Vegas was one night, a few reckless hours, but the damage didn't stay there. It followed me home, sat beside me every morning, whispered in every quiet moment. I used to think the worst part was losing him. Now I know the real loss was losing the version of myself he believed in. And that's the cruel truth about betrayal. It doesn't end when the other person leaves. It lingers in mirrors and memories long after the apologies fade. Ryan once told me, love is built on trust, and trust is built on truth.
I didn't understand it then.
I do now. Because once you break truth, all that remains is the silence after. And silence, I've learned, is the loudest punishment of all.